Time now to get the latest trends in dive retailing, travel, and training with Level Up, the podcast of Scuba Diving Industry Magazine. Now, here's your host, Scuba Radio's Greg the Dive Master.
That is me, and you can check out Scuba Radio every Saturday, 3 to 5 Eastern Time. However, today, yes, it is time for another edition of the Level Up podcast, the official podcast of Scuba Diving Industry Magazine. The man behind the madness, Willie Klein, on with me right now. Willie, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing great,
Yeah, you got your sparklers. You get ready for the 4th of July.
I am. We happen to live in a place where we're one of the few places you can actually shoot off fireworks. So we're in the county, even though I'm surrounded by city. Our little neighborhood is a kind of a throwback to the 60s. And so we have a huge shindig here every year. And everybody brings their fireworks over, and a lot of the neighbors come out, and It's a big fun thing. Yeah,
I was thinking we should do an underwater fireworks display, but then everybody with a brain said, that's a terrible idea, Greg.
Dan's got the closest thing going right there with his cool underwater plaque.
That's
Check
true.
this out.
He's celebrating 250 years of America. And he's got the plaque looking like it's underwater with a bunch of divers. That'd be a pretty cool way to celebrate the 4th. Absolutely. Yeah. So we'll have to find out what that's all about here momentarily.
We're honored to have our editor-at-large on with us today.
Britain, welcome.
No, Mr. Neil Watson.
Oh, man, are we going to Neil first?
Britain has to live his entire dive life in the industry to become the editor-at-large.
That's right. That is true. Sorry, Dive God, my bad. How are you, Neil?
I'm doing great. Call me whatever you want, just so I can use the company plane.
Okay.
Yeah, of course, yes.
Dive God it is, then.
Yeah, company plane.
Yeah.
So what's going on in Bimini? Anything new happening over there?
Well, just a little update. We had a great hammerhead migration season. For those that don't know, we got the great hammerheads that migrate from like November through April into Bimini. And it's just an incredible dive. The site's like 20 minutes from the dock. It's in 20 feet of water, white sand bottom. We got like a 95% success rate. We get anywhere from a half a dozen to a dozen great hammerheads, and often a couple of tiger sharks in as well. But in addition to that, we also have the Caribbean reef shark dives. We have the wild dolphin encounters with the spotted pods of wild dolphin. We have stingers. And one of the things we realized years ago is, even though Bimini diving is still great, and compared to everywhere else in the world in the Caribbean, it's great, but where 50 years ago I could take a group of divers on 3 dives a day for a week and never repeat the same site, we're hard pressed to do that. So what we've done is taken our big animal encounters, as well as we've sunk probably a dozen wrecks to kind of compensate for what isn't there anymore. And, over the years, as most of all of you have, I've been to hundreds of resorts all over the world, certainly through the Caribbean. I don't think I've been to one resort that didn't have something unique about it that was different from every other resort that I've been to. And I encourage all dive operators to, what may you not even recognize, there's probably something that's unique to your destination that you should promote and develop. And if you don't, whether you come up with something environmental, educational, or just funky, try to expand your repertoire of sites and experiences to take advantage of what you have that other places don't.
Right.
Great advice. In fact, the photo that's up on top of right there in front of her here, I think you can see it now if I hold my hand still. Oh, never mind. But anyhow, that was shot last April. We were at Neil's place, myself and a bunch of us from the magazine, and had an incredible time. So that's a tiger shark right there.
Yeah, it's insane what they have over there in Bimini. And, the Bimini is the closest island to the United States, by the way. Like what, 42 miles? 48 miles. It's crazy close, real easy to get to. And those shark dives have put Bimini on the map for sure with what Neil's done over the years. But you're right. You got the wild dolphin encounter is like I mean, that is just magical.
Crazy.
If you get out there and see those critters
And
and all the
and
other
going
reefs
from
and stuff, and just the water clarity
it's
too is,
so clear.
yeah, it's really
So
nice.
so we're gonna go from Bimini to New Orleans because Neil, you got something special to announce about the DEMA show coming up.
Yeah, I'm honored. Dima contacted me and said, Neil, would you be the ambassador to the Hall of Fame Diving Pavilion this year at New Orleans? And I said, are you kidding me? I mean, what an honor. So yeah, I'll be at Demon this year in the Hall of Fame Pavilion, and I know some of the contributors are Hall of Fame recipients, and I look forward to seeing everybody at DEMA, and I'll try to smuggle a little rum punch in under the booth.
Yeah, what does that entail exactly, Neil? Do you get to grab a bunch of beads and have people invite them in, and then okay, you know what you got to do?
Actually I said, well, what am I supposed to do? And Dima gave me a list of more of what I'm not allowed to do.
Yeah. They know you.
No, I
They
mean,
know
they
you
said,
well.
leave all your toys at home and all your funky stuff, and
That's
behave,
no
and,
fun. Come on
no
now.
trade show man, no big tongue, no
No tongue
things.
prosthetics. It's a long story.
Yeah, leave all that
Yeah.
stuff at home and try to behave. And I said, you know better than that.
It's New Orleans. Yeah, they should be encouraging
That's
this.
great.
I don't understand at
great.
all. But yeah,
Well-
that is going to make it extra special. And yeah, it's like the 50-year anniversary or something too, right?
Yeah.
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 And this is a perfect segue.
Actually, last year was my 20th anniversary of it being inducted into to the Hall of Fame, and of course Dan is a recipient, and Margot, and there'll be a bunch of people there I look forward to seeing.
Absolutely.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, there's a perfect segue then, Greg, to our next person,
Which would be,
the future editor at large.
yes, that would be
Britton.
Britton. Now, I gave him a promotion earlier, so now
That's right. That's right.
just
We had to
take
pull
that,
it, though.
flip it. Take it away,
Yeah.
Britton. What do you got for us?
Not much, but just before we jump into today's Level Up combo, just a little note for our industry partners. We're only 124 days away from DEMA in New Orleans. So that means the pre-show marketing window is right here. If you want dive retailers, travel sellers, instructors, resorts, and industry buyers thinking about your brand, before they even walk in the show floor right now is the time to get in front of them. Our July, August, and September issues are the key lead-up issues, and space is already moving. So pre-show advertising helps build awareness before buyers even get to the show. It supports booth traffic, and it gives your sales team a real warm conversation once DEMA starts. But if you haven't booked any pre-DEMA visibility yet, give me a call or shoot me an email. I'm more than happy to put something together like a program that fits your goals and your budget. But
Thanks,
that's all I
Britton.
got.
Mhm.
Of course.
Perfect.
Good. It's good stuff.
So before I tee up our first speaker today, I want to give a little bit of an intro to most people know Margot, but they really don't know Margot. Margot is responsible for over 5,000, right? I think that's the running number you're at right now. 5,000 child certifications since she started her company 26 years ago or so. I mean, there's probably nobody on this planet that certify more children in the dive industry, the dive community, than Margot and her team. So shout out to you and Tom as well for that, Margot. But I want to set that up because when she writes these articles for us about how a retailer can focus on the family market, she's really writing from an area of complete expertise. And she has written about a 9-part series, I think we're up to right now, on how to helping retailers and mentoring them through the process of how you teach children differently. What do you do? The whole process of gear selection. It's just been a really great series. So thank you, Margot, and for all the retailers out there that have been following along. I know they appreciate it because I see the numbers.
Mhm.
So Greg,
Thank you,
continue.
Frank.
Sorry.
Yeah, thank you very much, Willie. And actually, we're up to 8,100 certified youth
excuse me.
certifications over
8,100.
Yeah, that's I'm very proud of that number because we have a great team of instructors. Actually, Joe Makudowicz is here with us today, and she's been a huge part of our program in the Cayman Islands as well. And there's definitely a need for people who love kids, are passionate about kids. And Neil Watson was one of my early mentors too. So it's great to see him and be here today. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
All right. Well, yeah, page 24, Margot, in the latest issue, you're writing in the latest installment, a beautiful way to serve families and grow your business. So, how can retailers utilize e-learning with families? What can you tell us?
Well, I was really excited to talk about this today. Catherine Castle touched on, I think, the last podcast that we had about new ways for dive shops to get young people in and keeping things new and fresh. And the e-learning concept for me has been something that I've been using for years. It's a very good way for children to learn, for people that are interested in diving to get a glimpse of what it is that they're actually going to be embarking on. I personally, for me, love the e-learning because when the kids are coming on family vacations or they're getting ready to travel, they sign up with their dive shops. They do their e-learning for their junior open water. It could be photography. It could be junior rescue or rescue. There's a whole host of classes that I've listed in the magazine this week with all the different courses that are available. And the dive shops can get a lot of new business, repeat business, invigorated business by just posting those e-learning links on their websites, in their multimedia. I even have it at the bottom of every one of my emails. And I get a lot of people that are just interested in underwater photography or just con ed. And it's really fantastic for them to take those online courses. Then they show up at their dive shop when the courses are scheduled, or they go on vacation like they do with me, and they're already preempted for those courses. They've already done their e-learning, they've taken their exams, and they show up. We do a great review. We spend a lot of time with them reviewing any questions and going over the course. And then they're really ready to start the course. And I think it's a lot less stressful for kids. It's really enriching and engaging. And I think it's an easy way for dive shops also to make added revenue. I made $27,000 on e-learning last year.
Nice.
Wow. I love one of the lines that you use here. It says, for retailers and operators, online learning is not a replacement for professional instruction. It's a bridge. It helps customers, keeps customers connected between trips, prepares them for arrival, reduces classroom bottlenecks, so on and so on. I love that concept of using it as a bridge. So it's a great article. Thank you again, Margot, for that series you're doing.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love the fact too. She's coming to us from a dive boat today. By the way, I love the background there, Margot. Little inside joke, but hey.
No, we had 14 kids this week that just got certified between junior advanced and junior open water. They get really excited with the e-learning. They show up ready to go. And again, we spend a lot of time on review with them. It is not a way to alleviate any class time, but it really prepares them. I think it's a great tool, and I think dive shops should use it.
Yeah. Well,
That's
and you're
great.
investing in the future to make sure we have a business here, 10 years, 20 years from now.
That's so true.
Good stuff. All right, moving on.
We're moving on
All right.
from Florida to
Out west.
Idaho.
With Dan Orr, the man, page 6 in Scuba Diving Industry Magazine. Don't tell me no. Tell me how. The power of adaptive scuba training. So what are the benefits of scuba for adaptive divers there, Dan? What can you tell us?
Well, first of all, I mean, that title applies to a lot of things, not only people who are identified as having a disability, but also for older divers. In fact, actually, when I thought about that line, that title was actually right in the middle of a seminar I was giving where I was talking about safety issues for the older diver. But like a lot of us who became instructors back in the early 70s, there was never any discussion whatsoever about disabled divers. All the discussions had to do with able-bodied divers. So I really didn't have any background in that. But when I started started teaching at Rice State University in Dayton, Ohio, it was a school that was actually designed for people of all abilities or disabilities. And so almost every class I ever took as a graduate student or undergraduate had a person with some sort of disability in that class. So it really wasn't unusual when we started the scuba course there that somebody with a disability showed up. In fact, it was probably one of the first courses we ever taught there. And since there were no standards at the time, I got together with my staff and we just talked about this person who had this disability. We talked to them personally we approached it from what they could do, not what they couldn't do. And then we said, okay, fine, what are we going to do to modify the standards in order to accommodate that person and allow them to be able to scuba dive? And so once we started doing that, we really started seeing a lot of changes in people's attitudes about not only themselves, about life in general. And that included people who were probably at the time suffering from PTSD, because in the 70s, of course, that were people were coming back out of the military. I was a Vietnam veteran myself, so I had a lot of knowledge about what some of these people were going through. And you could see the change in their life and their attitude. And then it was also interesting that about a year or two after doing that, I actually got a call from a person representing some training agency, which I won't mention. And the person said, "We hear that you're certifying people with disabilities." I said, "Yes." And they said, "Well, you can't do that." And I said, "Well, first of all, don't tell me I can't do that, because I have been doing it. I'm going to continue to do it because that person meets those standards to my satisfaction as the instructor. And I have no qualm whatsoever about those people being qualified and certified divers." And the person said, "Well, we're not sure what we can do. There may be some standards issue we need to bring you up on." I said, "Go ahead." I said, "There are other training agencies out there." And they said, "Whoa, don't be too hasty." And so what that did, though, that started that conversation with that particular training agency, and we were able to continue doing what we were doing. I was going to do it anyway, because people should have an opportunity to enjoy the sport that we all love so much.
Absolutely. And when you see all those programs and some of the people that have went through them, I
Yeah.
mean, they just it's life changing for them,
Oh,
and
it
you
is.
can see it on
Absolutely.
their face, and that is very, very gratifying to
No,
just
and I
witness.
remember a number of times going underwater with a student who had a disability and looking at their face, and you can see tears in their eyes.
Hmm.
Mm,
So true.
well,
Made a
very
difference in their
powerful.
life.
Yeah.
Very powerful. Thank you, Dan. That's a great article. Goes nicely with what Alex had written a couple of months ago about the market of that adaptive diving out there. So I like the tactical approach you took on making sure that other instructors understand that you do need specialized training to deal
Yeah.
with a lot of the different disabilities. Yeah, that's
Hmm.
great.
All
Great job.
right. Okay. Up next, we're going to the Cayman Islands, I
We
believe.
are.
Now,
We are.
but I don't have the right name, I think. Uh,
Joe?
is it Pinky Joe?
Oh, yeah, Pinky Joe. Sorry, that should be
Yeah.
called Pinky Joe.
Yeah, because I was like, who's Pinky Joe? Because I had to
That
ask
was
that
pretty funny.
before the podcast today. So
I
welcome
love that.
Thank you.
from the Cayman Islands. Page 22. Pinky's written an article, "More Than a Dive Store: how community carries a business forward." What makes what makes sad events with East Coast divers so unique in the Caymans? In our industry there, Pinky Joe. Is it Pinky or Pinky Joe? I mean,
Whatever. Either one.
Pinky Joe sounds more southern and,
Yeah, right.
hospitality. I
More
kind of like
official.
that too. Hey,
Yeah.
I'm your
So
partner,
obviously
friend around.
recently East Coast Divers located in Brooklyn, Massachusetts had a devastating fire and it burnt down their dive shop. And the owners of that, Nick and Alex, are very good friends of mine. And we started our dive journey together, going through instructor training together back in 2004. So I've known them a very long time. And we've sort of been working side by side, them with East Coast Divers, me with Dive Tech since. So it definitely hit close to home once they lost their dive shop. And it kind of just made me realize, I mean, I've always known this, but it just brought more to light, like how supportive the dive community is of each other when these tragedies happen. And we see it daily on a small scale here in Cayman, like we each borrow each other's tanks. We use each other's pools if there's an issue with ours. If our boat's broken, someone will make space to put our divers on their boat. Like we kind of help each other out to run our businesses the best we can. And then, the next day we're back to arguing with each other on the dock. Like you're in my way, your vehicle's in my parking spot. Like,
Right.
so it just kind of goes back and forth like that. But when there is an issue, it's everybody in the dive community, customers, competitors, just everybody in the community steps up to support each other. And it's always these sorts of events that are a big reminder of how supportive we are of each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and this case was really remarkable. Over 200 people volunteered to help them within 2 hours of the fire.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, that is an outpouring. That's a
Mhm.
community. So that's why the article's titled "More Than a Dive Store: How Community Carries a Business Forward," and that's really great. I'm glad to see that in our industry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And by the way, we should mention Pinky obviously is taking over Dive Tech. You've been doing that for how many years now there in
11.
Cleveland? And
11.
where was I? Well, you were talking right before the show. I was like, "Who's Pinky?" He's like, "Well, she works in Dive Tech." And I'm like, "I know Nancy and Jay from back then." I've been living under a rock. I apologize.
Yeah.
But
We got to get you
it's
down
good
to
to have
Cayman
you.
now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that is definitely one of my favorite places on the planet. Well, good
And
stuff. Yeah.
and Joe, I'm going to challenge you for some more articles, okay?
Yeah,
Because it was a
definitely. I
great
love it.
article. We love it. Our editorial deadlines are on the 15th coming up. Hint, hint to everybody. So think about what you want to write about, what you think the industry needs to know.
Okay, will do.
Thanks again.
All right, good stuff. All right, moving on. Tom Leard, we got him on this week.
We got him working this time.
Yeah, that's right.
Perfectly.
Scuba Diving Industry Magazine, page 46, Teaching Scuba Better, Standards versus the Instructor's Responsibility. What do you mean by standards versus instructor responsibility, Tom? What do you
Well,
mean?
I didn't know which article you were talking about.
I
Okay,
didn't either, so I
yeah,
just
well,
read what they gave me.
let's get into that. Another article that hadn't been posted yet, but coming. I started it out. It is regrettable when interest in changing scuba training standards results from a death and subsequent litigation, and there have been accidents, and I'll call them that. That should never have happened. So what do we do about it? Yes, you're right. Standards, okay, but standards isn't the only answer. It's making appropriate decisions right out there on the spot. Let me give you an example from years ago when I was taking tours, and actually I've taken groups of divers on almost 200 tours over the years. And we were in the Florida Keys and leaving fairly nice waters, a couple foot swell. And when we got I was riding up on the flying bridge with the captain, making small talk. And when we got out into really open water, I had, I think, a group of 20. And I looked around and looked at those divers, and several of them were really quite new divers. And all at once we were in 6-7 foot seas. And so I said to the captain, we can't survive out here. I said, this is the wrong place to be for these divers this time. Let's turn around. And he says, "Oh, thank God. I thought you were going to put them in the water." And so it was a combination between myself, and I know had we put them in the water, we would have had severe challenges, and the people wouldn't have enjoyed those dives. So we went back into calmer waters and had less visibility, and so we got it done. But the other problem, and I'm not mentioning who or what, the comments from the captain was, "Well, we have to get this done because the boss said we've got to get this done. So we can't come out here and not dive." Okay, so that's part of this whole equation, and I don't have an answer to all this. Sure, standards, training standards, but how do you put common sense into every instructor? So that's my point, really, and I've written another article to kind of approach that.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's standards, or you could replace that word with minimums, if you ask me. I don't know. And I've always said all the agencies have their standards, have their rules that we're supposed to follow as dive instructors, but it really comes down to the instructor, doesn't it? I mean, when someone asks me, how do I decide what dive show or dive shop to go get certified at? I said, go in there, talk to the instructor and see how you feel about that instructor and learn as much about him as you can, because it's that one-on-one connection, I think, that'll make the difference between you having a great experience and one that could just be, What do you think,
And
Willie?
we're going to dig a little more into this too at the end of the show, but go ahead. Alex, you had a comment?
Yeah, I'd like to bring up another word that's often omitted. That's ethics. It's not just attitude; it's ethics. It's the it's the moral judgment and commitment to do the right thing. And I unfortunately I don't see that taken into account all the time with respect to scuba instruction any longer.
Yeah. Well,
Anyway,
money
so much
gets
for
in the way sometimes. And
And
that's,
those,
yeah.
and those standards are really just guidelines anyway, and you really need to do what's best and safest for the students under your care.
Right.
Yeah.
'Cause if you
Great
don't
article, Tom.
care for them properly, it can come back and get you there too.
I don't know if you
So,
were ready for us to run it, but we ran it because it was so good. It's just a great article. So thank you again for diving into this topic. And you've approached it from a very unique perspective in our industry, having formed a training agency and been at the helm for one for many years in the past. So great information there. So thank you again.
All right. Thank you.
no worries. All right, up next, let's go to Alex. We got Alex Brilski, page 34. When coral collapses or collapse happens in real time, what do you mean by that? First off, I guess, Alex.
Well, this was inspired, I think, by a concept that a lot of people have with regard to anything related to climate change, and that is, well, this is something that will happen in the future. It's for my grandchildren, et cetera, et cetera. And we're now seeing that things are things are not going to happen; they are happening. I mean, just take for example, right now the heat dome over. I'm in Baltimore right now. It's going to be 102 degrees tomorrow.
Wow.
This is happening now, and the real wake-up call with regard to the ocean was last year, but which I'll get into. But what inspired this as well was NOAA just released a statement a few weeks ago that we're now in the entering parts of the next global El Nino event, and that's pretty important because we just came out of a 2-year El Nino event that had, let me make sure I'm quoting my statistics here. It affected 84% of all coral reefs in the world. And so what I did, the one previous to that, by the way, was 2015 through 2017. And I happened to be still on staff at the College of the Florida Keys, and my own students were involved in some of these assessments. And so what I did, there were 3 papers in particular, one from a colleague of mine, that really talk about the consequence, the immediate consequence. These are events that they literally saw happening over days. In fact, I think still the hottest temperature ever recorded in the Western Atlantic was 100 degrees in the Upper Keys. To the point where, as in one of the articles, it describes how the corals, I believe, at Chica Rocks or Horseshoe in the Florida Keys, some of those coral heads did not bleach; they just died. They didn't go through the process of bleaching. And to bring this to bear, what we are anticipating in this one that we're in now is at least as bad and worse. And the reason it's worse is because piled on top of these cyclical El Nino events, we have a problem with what are being described as marine heat waves. And this is not just tropical regions, even temperate regions, where ocean temperatures are abnormally warm above and beyond any consideration for El Nino. So it could be a double whammy of we have the heat blob, these heating events, and then we get the extra push from the El Nino phenomenon. So we need to really pay close attention and do all we can. I did conclude the article with some action that dive professionals and divers can take into account. And I hope they take heed. But I think the ending message is if we don't do something about carbon dioxide, nothing that we do on a coral reef is going to make any difference whatsoever, because it's simply not enough that can be done locally. We can mitigate we can perhaps delay, but we're not going to stop the demise of coral reefs as we know them unless we do something about climate, get serious about the 1.5 maximum, and really do that, regardless of what you may hear in the press. So that's my soapbox. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Well, thank you, Alex. There's also something else special about today, Greg. Yesterday was Alex's birthday.
Hey,
Ooh.
happy birthday.
Hey, so happy birthday to you.
What can I say? And I had my birthday at the very location where I taught myself to scuba dive on my own shore in the Chesapeake Bay
That's
right.
great.
Well,
That's
cool.
great.
Yeah.
back in 1966.
hmm Just dated himself. That's
Yeah, beat me by a few years.
yeah. All right. Well,
Thanks again, Alex.
moving on to
Always a
Jeff.
pleasure.
Right.
We are.
We got Jeff Cincernino. Yeah, I got it
Good
out
job.
barely. Page 14. Do you have a planned maintenance program? So, what are the two basic tenets of maintenance planning for dive centers there, Jeff?
Yeah, today we're going to talk about yet another document or piece of paper that you need to put together as a dive center. We've talked a lot on this show about standard operating procedures, employee handbooks, emergency action plans. It all gets complicated, but there's still more to go on this, and that's your planned maintenance program. Dive Center has a lot of equipment in it. I'm not talking about the stuff that customers bring in and has to be repaired or serviced. This is the stuff that you own: your compressor, your regulators, your BCs, your rental gear, that sort of stuff. So how do you ensure that it stays within its service intervals? And that's where your planned maintenance program comes in. And it's pretty simple. There's two basic pieces: what needs to be done to the gear and when does it need to be done. So if you don't have that documented or written down somewhere, it's really easy to miss something. You get busy especially like when we were into our busy season up here in New England in the summertime. That's not the time we want to be having our rental regulators require their service. That had to be done at the right time of year for us. Otherwise, it was too easy for something to not get done and get put into service or taken out. And hopefully, you didn't have an issue with that or a problem with that piece of gear. The other thing is it helps you with your budgeting. I use the example in the article about our tanks. We didn't have a hydro station at in our business, so we had to budget for getting those tanks out and getting them hydrostatically tested. And it took us a while, but we got it on a 5-year cycle, so that 1/5 of our tanks were due every year for hydrostatic testing, and that allowed me to budget appropriately, get them scheduled with the hydrostatic facility, and back in service before our busy season. So you have to know when you want to do stuff and what you want to do. But the final piece of that is hydrostatics are nice. They stamp it right in the cylinder so you can see it. There's no missing that the hydrostatic testing was done, or you have a visual inspection sticker on the tank that shows that it was actually done. But there are other things. You have to have the records of the service that was completed. Should you have an issue with a piece of gear, you have your service records available. Fortunately, some of the point of sale systems today or your systems will allow you to capture that information, scan it in, or put it into a document. Gone are the days where you need these gigantic binders full of paper that have your testing done and trying to find it. So we're very fortunate today. We have a lot of technology to help us support that. But unless you sit down and figure out that you're going to have a planned maintenance system or planned maintenance program, it's just too easy to miss things. So a lot more to it. You've got standard operating procedures, employee handbooks, emergency action plans, all kinds of stuff. Well, here's another piece for this very complicated business of running a dive center.
Well, there you go. It's just you got to stay organized, and that's what Jeff's all about, it sounds like to me. Right, Will?
Yeah, I want to reiterate something really important. I've been involved in a few cases of litigation in terms of diving accidents, and every single one of them come down to wanting to see the maintenance records on the gear.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost standard policy. I mean, it used to be, hey, whatever, I service them once a year. Now you got to document that, and you need to be able to show that regulator has been serviced, the BC was serviced, there was nothing wrong with the mechanisms. It really has become a big issue. So, I think it's a great article. And Jeff, I love these basics that you're tackling in the retail environment, and I think other retailers appreciate it as well.
Thank you.
There you go. All right, up next, we're off to the Maldives with Michael Salvarezza. He's in New York City. Page 40. He's got a group travel guide to the Maldives. So give us that helicopter view of the Maldives and its 1,200 islands stretching over 500 miles, Michael. What can you tell us?
Yeah, well, I can tell you it's hotter here in New York than the Maldives.
Well,
for
there's
sure.
that. And you'd probably rather be there. Me too.
I would. I
Yeah.
would. So, yeah, I did this article with Chris Weaver. He's not on today, but just wanted to tell everyone he says hi. The Maldives is, as you mentioned, you throw out a bunch of statistics, all kinds of numbers about numbers of islands and atolls and all that. And it can appear to be daunting. It can be kind of complex if you're looking to schedule a trip there. Where do you go? Do you do liveaboard? Do you do a land-based operation? How do you get to the liveaboard? Where is the Ari Atoll? Where is that? And, these are atolls and islands that are strewn across the Indian Ocean. Each one of them is beautiful in their own way, but it can be complicated and a little daunting. So we wanted to do an overview of the entire nation and the diving picture for the Maldives. And you can basically look at the Maldives in terms of three regions: the northern atolls, the central atolls, and the southern atolls. The capital of the Maldives is in Malé, which is in the central region. That's where everyone flies into. And from there, that's where your trip just begins. And so we talk about the airport. We talk about getting out of the airport. We talk about the speedboats that can take you from the airport to resorts. There are a number of islands that are small, tiny islands that have a dedicated resort on the island that usually almost always has a dive operation. And if you want to experience the Maldives that way in sort of a land-based luxury dive operation mode, more power to you. It's great. I've done it, and it's really, really fantastic. The better way to do the Maldives is on liveaboards. There are 50 some odd liveaboards that are operating in the Maldives. They all have varied itineraries. Some of them go to the north, some of them go to the south, some of them go both places. So I think it's useful to kind of take a look at what it is that you or your group is looking for and what it is that you or your group are capable of. I love some of the earlier conversation about not throwing people in the water when they're not suited for that condition. The Maldives, in particular in the north, are known for strong currents and very strong currents. I'm not talking about, mild currents. I'm talking about very strong currents. So if you take a novice diver that's going on their first exotic liveaboard trip and you throw them in a water with a ripping current, that's a recipe for a problem. So, sort of take an assessment of who's going to be on the trip and where you want to go. And so in the article, we kind of describe a little bit of that. We talk about some of the signature sites. There are a number of them throughout the Maldives. In the north is Hanafaro Bay, which is really known for massive aggregations of manta rays. In the south, there's the Alamatha Pier, which is a night dive that is off the charts with nurse sharks and big jacks and all that kind of stuff. But those are just a handful of signature dives. The Maldives, in many, many ways, is an ocean wilderness. And so when you're on the liveaboard, you get to go across vast sections of the ocean and explore dive sites that are not just the famous ones, if you will. The Maldives, like every coral region of the world, has suffered from bleaching events and is suffering from global climate change. In fact, the nation of the Maldives is one of the most vulnerable in the world because the islands do not rise more than 1 or 2 or 3 feet above sea level.
Wow.
So as the oceans rise, that entire nation becomes vulnerable. We don't talk much about that in the article, but the Maldives are such a big, I would say, a big region. So we wanted to try to break it down and kind of decipher some of it and give some guidance as to where to go and how to go there, and how to structure a trip for you or a group that you can plan on and do it in a sensible way. One thing that I always found before I ever went to the Maldives, and I've been there a bunch of times, going to be back there in September, the names of the places can even be confusing. It's sort of, they're not Western names, so it's a little hard. Where the heck are these places? So anyway, that's the gist of the article.
Yeah, but I tell you what, I've done it quite a few times, and every trip it has delivered. I almost consider the
Yeah.
Maldives like a warm water Galapagos. You
In
know?
a lot of ways, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you get a lot of diversity and big animals like the whale sharks and the manta rays and all this stuff. And it's for a warm water wuss like myself. I prefer it over the
Yeah,
cooler
I was
waters of the Galapagos.
I
That's
was
the
down.
title of the next article, Diving
Warm
for the
water
Warm
wuss.
Water Wusses.
Yeah,
Yeah,
say.
that's perfect. I was down in Galapagos with Peter Hughes several years back and came out of one of those iconic dives that was just blowing your mind, you know. And I said, Peter, where in the world have you ever been that it's anything close to this? He said, Maldives.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's just amazing. The ocean's on fire. Well,
Mhm.
thank you again. Great piece. Thank you to Chris as well. I'm sorry you couldn't be here today, but wonderful piece. I think you really took the time to explain the different parts of the Maldives and its complexity. And I think you told me that the Duke of York is now back in service, correct?
Yeah, so if you haven't heard that story, the Duke of York is one of those 50 liveaboards that operates in the Maldives, and unfortunately, they had a significant tragedy several months ago with several divers that met with a real that they died, but they were outside of all of the limits that are imposed. So there's a lot of questions about what happened there, what those divers were doing. In the meantime, the Duke of York, which is this fabulous vessel, I mean, it really is, had its license suspended while they were investigating this particular incident. I was in touch with the president of that company last week, and the license was restored last week. They're back up and running, and so that's a good sign.
Mhm.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, I think I am the last to go today, Greg.
You're up
And
next. That's right.
you are a pilot.
I am
Neil's
a
a
pilot in
pilot.
training.
I'm a pilot. And so, with all the events that's been going on in the industry over the last few months, you know, tragedies and so on, it really struck me. And I wrote this month from the publisher. It's called Standards versus Judgment. And it's on page 5. It's actually received quite a bit of traction as of late. But the article compares a dive instructor to a pilot, to a commercial pilot. And that I have been on planes where the pilot, you know, we're getting ready to take off, or you're sitting at the gate and he says, folks, I'm sorry to do this to you, but there's a maintenance light up here that I just don't feel comfortable with. We're going to get it fixed before we take off. Or in many cases, you know, deplane the plane and get me a new plane. They have that last minute call. They're the last person to make a decision on whether that plane leaves the ground or not. During my pilot training years ago, my instructor, you know, warned about this problem called get there-itis. In other words, I got to get there. I got to be there. I'm supposed to be there tomorrow. And it's what kills more pilots than almost anything else, is because you take chances in a condition you shouldn't be in. And as you know, as a pilot in training, Greg and Neil, you're a pilot much longer than I have. But it's usually a combination of 2 or 3 different things that happen. Like you described on the back of the boat, Tom, you know, bad seas, heavy seas, inexperienced set of students that are not used to that environment is already 2 problems, 2 strikes against you. So the third is an accident. So, you know, that's exactly what happens. So I tried to draw the analogy that, and we don't think about this much as an industry, but the dive instructor is so much like the commercial pilot. He is the one that's ultimately responsible for his students, their students, whether he or she. And even though we don't sometimes think of it this way, they have the last call. If they're uncomfortable with someone going in the water that day, or the class environment, or the conditions, and they cancel the dive, the worst that's happened is they lose their job, but everybody's still alive and they all walk away from it. So, I think we as an industry need to kind of take a reframe that these instructors do have, for good or for bad, that ability to make those calls. And you mentioned earlier, and we kind of got into it about the minimums. I compared the minimum to, or the maximums in my article as a ceiling. The ceiling is this ratio. And there's nothing in there in any training agency that says you have to do your maximum.
Right.
Now, the dive business may encourage you to it because it make more money, or, the boss of the instructor may encourage it. But at the end of the day, there's nothing that requires that person to go into the water. And unfortunately, people lose their jobs all the time for various reasons. But the reality is that you're the ultimate person that's responsible. If that person has an accident, they come after you.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the article on standards versus judgment. My second article has nothing to do with liability, really, but I've been writing there's a 12-part series I've written this year called Delivering Extraordinary Service. And if you're a dive operator, especially a tropical dive operator or a resort out there, it's really written to you. It's a series of a program I developed for 15 years working in the Bahamas. And it's basically taking a standard 2-tank dive and turning it into a 350-point evaluation process, much like the military does, 1 through 5 scale, or like an IDC might. And so I break down to 13 different components of a standard 2-tank dive. And I've been breaking down each of those components in this article. And this month's article was how to use the transit time to your advantage. I'm a huge believer in getting your staff off the flybridge and off of sitting around to talking to the customers on the way out. If you've done your job, you begin to build a relationship with them. You also learn far more than asking them or sitting and making them watch you assemble the gear by just simply chatting with them. You find out they've been here for a week and this is their 50th dive and they just decided to come over here for the day. That's a low stress environment for a customer, and chatting them, they just came off the cruise ship and they haven't been diving in 3 years. So there's someone you need to keep an eye on. I mean, little things like that you find out. And if you don't have your staff interacting with your guests, we used to always say that the goal was to learn everybody's state where they're from or country, because names are hard to remember because there's millions of them, but there's only so many states in the United States. So, hey, Florida, hey, Texas. And it's amazing how easy the mnemonic became that you would have an entire crew. By the time they got the dock, they can name where everybody's from. Thank you, Florida. Thank you, Carolina. And then, of course, they'd get to know their names, too, many times along the way. Well, guess what happened with those staff? They made the most money in tips than everybody on the dock. So they connected with the customer. So it's really all about connecting. So anyhow, if you get a chance, it's on page 26, transit time, opportunity, not downtime. So those are my 2 shoe boxes for the day. And I think that's going to wrap. Anybody else have any comments you would like to make on any of the other articles?
Well, I have a comment about last month's article about the Florida lobster mini season. It starts for some strange reason, at 12:01 a.m. on July 29th, and it goes until midnight on July 30th. I don't know why they started in the middle of the night. But if you do know somebody who's going to go to that event and go down there and try to get their lobsters, please remind them that lobsters are optional. Safety is not.
Yeah, and there's a poster too, linked in this article, that dive shops you can print out, you can put up on your walls in Florida and the southeast part of the United States. I encourage you to do that. So thank you, Dan, for that poster. It was really well done.
Yes, and it is a lot of fun, by the way, if you haven't done it. Matter of fact, I don't know if I'll do it at 12:01. But
you might wait till like 10 o'clock the next morning.
Probably.
Right?
I don't dive till the sun gets warm. Yeah. And
Greg, we know you go to Publix for your lobster.
Shush! Don't give away all my secrets, dive
Publix,
God.
That's so funny.
Come on now. But yeah, it's a good time. Right.
Well, thanks everybody.
Yeah.
Thanks everybody for being with us today. I think, Greg, it's going to wrap up our show unless anybody has any other comments.
I think that'll do it. All right. Well, enjoy the 4th of July and check out Scuba Radio every Saturday, 3 to 5 Eastern time. Wait. Does Jeff have something, or is he just waving by? Okay. I saw him raise his hand. Fair enough. Okay. Well, then we'll just wrap it up until next time. Remember, it's always better where, Willie?
It's down where it's wetter.
That's it.
This has been Level Up, the podcast of Scuba Diving Industry Magazine. Produced by Scuba Radio and the Klein Group. For more info, go to ScubaDivingIndustry.com.